Dr. Fab, Dr. Faria Bukhari, right now over here at Phoenix City Hall, and many times before. And today we are at a very sensitive point in the history of mankind, because the decisions we make today are gonna affect our generations to come. We are talking about having a viable, a healthy future for our generations versus an apocalyptic death sentence for our future generations. So why is my protest relevant to an average American citizen? Because we're all in this together. This is a melting point. This is a global conflict. That is the Kashmir conflict and the Palestine conflict. And for some odd reason, the Biden administration has failed to take the necessary steps to try to mediate peace, not just in the Kashmir conflict, but also in the Palestine conflict. Both these conflicts have lasted for more than half a century. They are the product of the Second World War. They were actually cultivated on purpose to profit from plundering the resources of other nations on the same principles as the centuries-old principles of occupation of foreign lands, imperialism, colonialism that we saw in the British era when it was a monarchy-led, non-democratic rule. We saw how the British invaded foreign countries, tried to occupy foreign countries, and tried to plunder the resources of foreign nations. We saw this happen before the World War I. We saw that happen before World War II, and we thought after such a catastrophic collapse of humanity in both the world wars that these blunders and these strategic, hierarchical, colonialism-minded elite are going to be contained. But I'm very sorry to say that they were only empowered after the Second World War. We thought we defeated Hitler and his neo-Nazi plans to expand and have global domination, but we were wrong. We only propagated, proliferated colonialism. What we are seeing in Kashmir today is a form of colonialism. What we see today in Palestine, in Gaza, is a form of colonialism. And the world stays mute, deaf, blind to the outcries of humanity and mankind as little children are getting slaughtered, assassinated, abducted, abused by war criminals. Biden administration came to the White House on the promise of bringing humanity back on the table of United Nations. However, Biden has actually facilitated the genocide of not just Kashmiris but Indian minorities as well. Yes, I am talking about the Dalits, the Sikhs, the Christians, the Muslims of India who are getting persecuted right now as I speak these words in India at the behest of the Biden administration. What do you call a leader who fails to keep his promises that he made to become the President of the United States? A loser. What do you call a leader who does that deliberately, not involuntarily, but deliberately, to facilitate a profitable war for money. You call that leader a criminal. Wars are expanding. Ukraine is burning. Kashmir conflict is on fire. Palestine conflict has gotten worse. Where is Biden's promise to try to curb down these conflicts and try to mediate global peace and try to bring human rights back on the table of the United Nations of the world? How can we see results? How can we see goals accomplished if there is no will to accomplish those goals? We saw Bill Clinton try to mediate a truce in Palestine. He went out of his way to bring a truce, brought Yasser Arafat to the table, who was willing to offer the olive branch to the Israelis. We tried to at least do something for peace. What has the Biden administration done? Trump, during his era, tried to mediate a truce between all the Arab nations and Israel, tried to promote the Abraham Accords. At least he tried. At least he tried. What is the Biden administration doing? What are we seeing from the Biden administration are just words. Words, words, and more words. As the entire world is right now on fire, and the future of not just my children, but your children is at stake too. Anytime we could see a nuclear apocalyptic war erupt in the regions, and what is Biden going to say? Shrug it off? Say, oh, you know what, I could have done it. I could have tried, but I was very busy. I was very busy socializing, trying to keep appearances, trying to pretend that I'm interested in global peace, that I'm trying to keep my promise. Today I stand here not just for justice for the people of Palestine and Kashmir and the people of India, but for the billions and billions of humanity that is currently at stake due to the recklessness, the greed, the corruption of the Biden administration. What has Rashida done to try to mediate peace in Palestine? Every day, little children are getting slaughtered by the Israeli forces. Same scenario in Kashmir. The entire demography of the region is being corrupted right now by the Modi administration, who are displacing the Kashmiris from their homes, building illegal settlements on the same lines as the Israel government against the UN resolutions. What we see from the Biden administration is nothing. He is not interested. He doesn't care. Because not caring is profitable for a few companies that sponsor his election campaigns, that make sure that war never ends, that make sure that the military-industrial complex keeps alive at the cost of lives of little children of Kashmir and Gaza. We are seeing Ukraine burn. Today, if Trump was the president of the United States, things wouldn't have reached so far. He would have stopped the Ukraine war before it even could have started. We are seeing what's happening in Afghanistan. There's a resurgence of terrorism. What is the Biden administration doing about it? No accountability of the President of the United States, who is gone rogue and who is doing things for money, for wealth, and not as per the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States is very clear about sanctioning war criminals, about trying to boycott human rights violators. We have a president who's breaking law. We have a president who is violating human rights. We have a president who is facilitating war crimes in Palestine, in Kashmir, and who is trying to justify his presidency by fueling war in Ukraine, by creating an enemy out of China, Russia, Iran, when all three nations have tried their level best to mediate peace with the United States of America. So many Ukrainians have died who could have been alive today if Biden had accepted the olive branch. Today, US economy is in a state of recession as Biden tries to isolate itself, and China is making progress through BRICS, trying to create an alternative system of economy that's going to replace the current economic system. This could have been prevented by collaborating, partnering with China in time, and if Trump were the president, he would have tried to do so. He was the president who even tried to meet the president of North Korea despite all his differences, because he was more interested in peace compared to money. He tried to end the Afghan war. He tried to mediate with the Afghan Taliban, tried to bring the US Marines back who were suffering, whose families were suffering. And the US was spilling trillions of dollars of its money into an endless war for nothing, just to make a few weapon industries rich. For how long are we going to allow a president like Biden to continue his profitable wars that are going to benefit Dick Cheney, Rupert Murdoch, Rothschilds, and his own vested interests, his own sponsors that are going to make sure he wins the next election? Why is the blood of mankind so cheap? Why is the blood of Kashmiris and Palestinians so cheap? How can Biden say that he's not a racist if he doesn't care for the lives of Kashmiris as much as he cares for the lives of Ukrainians? If he does not care for the lives of Palestinian children as much as he cares for the lives of Ukrainians, what's the difference between Ukrainians and Palestinians and Kashmiris? Ukrainians are white, Palestinians are not white. Ukrainians are white, Kashmiris are not white. My dear American fellows, we have a president who is a certified racist. No matter how much he tells you that he's fighting against racism, no matter how many Muslim congresswomen he inducts into his cabinet, he is a certified racist because actions prove louder than words. His actions are proving that he's supporting war criminals, that he's supporting genocides, that he wants the military-industrial complex to flourish. He wants the US economy to tank down in these wars like it did after 9/11. He wants an apocalyptic future where he can go to Mars because he can afford to, and we are all here left on Earth to burn down to ashes. Ashes created by him, not by Putin, not by Xi, not by the Iranian regime, but by Biden, who always rejected the olive branches, who chose war against peace, who did not even try for peace. Because peace in Biden's dictionary is not profitable. Because peace is not going to make his generations rich. Today, US economy is suffering. There is an energy crisis, not just in US, but all over Europe. How come Biden is not interested in ending the Ukrainian war? How come Biden is not interested in mediating truce in Palestine and trying to preserve the lives of children who are getting slaughtered by Israel every day? How come Biden is not interested in trying to end the Kashmir conflict by containing the radical fascism of Modi, who's working on the same principles as Hitler neo-Nazism, who wants global domination and wants to convert every non-Hindu of India into a Hindu. And he won't settle down till he accomplishes his goal. While we saw Trump do so much for global peace, we are seeing Biden do nothing. Trump tried to contain the wars of the world, stopped any more invasions, tried to mediate a truce with Putin, tried to end the Syrian conflict, tried to end the Yemen conflict, tried to end the Afghan conflict, and even the Palestinian conflict. What is Biden administration doing? Biden administration is only interested in proliferating war, converting US into a war machine for some companies to make profit from at the cost of US Marines, at the cost of US economy, at the cost of lives of American children who are going to suffer in the future if nothing is done about it today. I have a few requests. I'm here to make the first one being that please have the President of the United States follow the Constitution of the United States. Kindly stop the President from breaking the US laws so many times, undeterred, unchecked. Biden is breaking the US Constitution by facilitating a fascist regime of Modi, who is no less than the radical ISIS, who's currently trying to decimate millions and millions, almost 500 million. I'm talking about 500 million people in India and millions in Kashmir, and who will make sure that Afghanistan never sees any peace so that he has a reason to convert Afghanistan into a Hindu land and so that he can justify his reoccupation of Kabul. We know what Modi wants, everybody knows that. He wants a greater Akhand Bharat Hindutva all the way from Afghanistan to Myanmar. And Biden administration is giving him that in a plate. When Trump administration tried to stop that by mediating truce of peace with the Afghan Taliban, trying to end an unending, useless war that gave US nothing but tears and blood. Blood of their Marines and the suffering that their families had to go through, the recession that the US had to go through. Biden administration must be held accountable for trying to rejuvenate a war that Trump administration ended in Afghanistan. Biden administration must be held accountable for trying to fuel the Ukrainian war when he could have ended it many, many months ago. Biden administration must be held accountable for supporting, facilitating, sponsoring the genocide of children of Kashmir by facilitating Modi, RSS, BJP in India, and Biden administration must be held responsible for supporting the genocide of Palestinian children in Gaza, in the West Bank, by the Israelis. Even Obama wrote a contract of peace with the Iranian regime. So tell me, what peace contract has the Biden administration written so far? We have had 3 Democratic presidents in the last decade or so. Bill Clinton tried to mediate a truce by bringing Yasser Arafat to the table. He tried. We saw he tried. It didn't work, but he tried. And we'll give him credit for that. Obama, in spite of all his shenanigans that he did in Syria, Libya, Yemen, he did try to write a peace accord with the Iranian regime, tried to at least end one feud. What is the Biden administration doing? Is it a war cabinet? Is this what it is? Is this why Biden is the president of US? To convert US into a machine gun that can be pointed at anybody else, anytime? Tell me, how is this not communism? If you have the mind frame of a communist dictator who wants global domination and who cannot tolerate resistance, and he wants things his way only such a leader would do such a thing. Today, we are seeing the world burn all around us. And the fireworks are killing children, women, old people all over the world. And it is in the hands of the American people to stop that. And you can stop it by using your democratic rights, by asking your president, what has he done for peace? Why isn't he following the US Constitution? So my first demand is to ask your president to follow your Constitution, to ask him to stop breaking the law again and again and again. My second request is to try to confront the fascism of Modi and the Israeli regime by doing the right thing, by boycotting the products, by boycotting the trade, by trying to sanction them, put them under pressure to give in to the United Nations resolutions. Nobody wants a war, but it is in the hands of the American people to stand up and try to do the right thing, even if their president is not willing to do so. You know what is happening to the Indian minorities in India. If you don't know, then you're so distracted and you have your head under the ground. And one day, an apocalypse is going to happen and you will realize that you should have try to look up what Modi is doing to his people in India and to the people of Kashmir against the UN resolutions. So, at an individual level, you can combine your efforts and raise the masses, raise the awareness, boycott Indian products so that Modi listens to the UN resolutions, which he's not willing to listen to because he knows he has Biden with him. So even if Biden is with Modi, you can bring a change in the lives of 500 million people of India by imposing an individual, enhanced, mass organized boycott of trade and products from India. This will tell the Modi administration that he cannot continue to persecute the Indian minorities. He cannot continue to have his expansionism, plans of greater Akhand Bharat Hindutva. He cannot try to violate the peace in Afghanistan that has been achieved after the sacrifice of so many US Marines. You have to take a stance because these war criminals are not going to stop otherwise. You have to take a stance by boycotting the products of Israel till Israel is willing to listen to the UN resolutions in regards to Palestine. We have all been very clear. The world has been very clear on the issue of Palestine and Kashmir. Hundreds and hundreds of UN resolutions have been processed. However, Biden administration is vetoing every resolution that is being processed against Israel, against Israelis' war crimes, against Israeli aggression, and trying to continue this perpetual, vicious cycle of aggression, brutality, atrocities, apartheid against the Palestinians. And not just the Palestinians, but the Kashmiris as well. Many resolutions have been processed in the United Nations against the violation of human rights committed by the Indian Army in Kashmir. Rapes have been committed and used and abused as a tool of war. Young boys and girls have been abducted and tortured by the Indian Army. And now they're changing the demography. And by the way, the RSS, which is the militant, radical, ISIS-like organization of India, has legalized the rape of any non-Hindu in India by its activists. They actually tell their activists that if you rape a non-Hindu girl, you will get blessings and you will get a mansion in the life after. These are the exact words of the RSS goons. So this is what you're dealing with. When Hitler committed the Holocaust, the world stood against him, and rightfully so. No one can be allowed to persecute an entire generation of mankind on the basis of his color, religion, sect, nationality, background. This is against the human rights. This is against humanity. This is in the charter of every humanitarian organization of the world, including the United Nations. This is part of the United States Constitution. But today, the US president is breaking the law by supporting apartheid, not just in Kashmir and Palestine, but also trying to trigger another war in Afghanistan after peace was restored with so many sacrifices of so many people. Americans sacrificed. People sacrificed for peace. Your Marines went there, stayed there, lost their limbs so that peace could happen in the world. They were sent with the wrong ulterior motive of a few cartels of military-industrial complex in a war that wasn't theirs. But when they fought for this country. They fought for the freedom of this country. They fought to bring peace in this country. And all that is going to be in vain today if you allow your president to reignite a war that the Trump administration worked so hard to end. So, my second request to all the American people is to work at an individual level, join together, organize yourselves, and boycott, sanction war criminals on your own and spread the word around so that they can come to the table and start listening to what the UN resolutions of peace have to say. Start abiding by them. Start following them. We can put economic pressure on them, but you have to stand up yourself because these goons are not going to do it. They are too selfish, they are too greedy, they are too corrupt. It is your children, it is your lives, it is your future. If you don't do anything, we are looking at an apocalyptic My third request is to ensure that the Biden administration has an immediate meeting with the head of the state of China to talk about a collaborative peace and trade agreement that's going to work for the greater mankind, because otherwise China is all set to win this trade war against the US via BRICS. And guess who is part of BRICS? Russia and India. The same India that Biden administration is supporting so much today. The same India that has been trading in Russian currency, buying gas from Russia. So how can you say that India is a staunch ally of US? India is not an ally of US. India is a certified ally of Russia. And trying to think that India is going to be used against China for US, and thus keeping quiet over its war crimes and its genocidal atrocities, it's not going to work. Because India has continued its support for Russia in Ukraine. And today, if you're losing this war in Ukraine and losing your children in this war in Ukraine, it's because of the Indian alliance with Russia. So, kindly sit on the table with the heads of the state of China, Russia, and Iran and try to write down a peace accord. At least try. Ask your president to give peace a try. To stop making money for himself out of the bloodshed of children all over the world. At the cost of US economy, at the cost of US Marines' lives, and at the cost of future of this world. We need to think for the greater good of this world, not just a few political parties who are financed by corrupt corporations and who work like a corporation once they are in power. Trump tried to change that, and look what they did to him. He's banned on Twitter. He's banned all over the social media. Imagine an American citizen, an ex-president of the United States getting banned to speak up freely, using his right of free speech in the so-called democracy of US on social media. Just imagine, you are not living in a democracy, American people. My American fellows, this is a certified communist state, owned, processed, facilitated, occupied by the communist Biden regime. Who has successfully shut down the strongest voice of opposition against him by shutting down Trump on social media. Not just mainstream media, but all over the social media. Trump has his own baggage, but Trump is not a communist. And Trump tried for peace hard as he could in the limited period of time he had. He ended the Afghan war successfully. He tried to mediate truce between the Muslims and the Israelis. He tried his best to get rid of the nefarious agenda of Modi in Afghanistan. He tried to seek truce with Russia so that the Ukraine crisis could be contained even before it started. He played a big role in the Syrian crisis that was at its peak when Obama left the office. He did his best to end wars, to bring the US troops back home, to try to mediate a truce. The poor guy, he even went to see the president of North Korea. You should give him credit for that. You can make fun of him, you can ridicule him, you can laugh at his jokes, but you have to give him credit because he did a lot of things that the Biden administration is just doing the opposite of. He tried to end the military-industrial complex of US that is draining the US resources, that is getting flourished under the taxpayer dollars of poor American people who are trying to scramble for peanuts as these big corporations take away large amounts of profits from the bloodshed of these wars that are not even American wars. Trump tried to end the deep state of the United States, and guess what they do to him? They shut him down all over the world on the social media and mainstream media against the US Constitution that allows him to have his freedom of speech. He tried to pursue the US Constitution and he was punished for it. And we have a current president of the United States, Biden, who is breaking the US Constitution every day, every minute, every second, and nobody cares anything about it. How can the American people allow themselves to live in a state of communism of Biden administration that is mediated by the Soros cartel? Soros is running the White House of US right now. And who is Soros? He's the deep state. He's a corporation cartel. He's doing it for money, to get powerful, to get richer. He wants his own agenda to be imposed over here and not the will of the American people, not what the US Constitution says. So my next request is to bring Trump back online and give him his freedom of speech so that we can end this communism in US, where we have one man show, George Soros, dictating, occupying the White House and running havoc all over the world, fueling conflicts, propagating his own agenda at the cost of lives of innocent children. You cannot have a democracy with a shut-down opposition. Trump was shut down successfully on the 6th of January and is still shut down. While Elon Musk has tried his level best to bring it back online, even Elon and coerced into giving up his support for the freedom of speech of the opposition of Biden. We are in a state of communism in US right now, and if the people of America do not stand up against it, it will be game over for everybody. Not just US, but the rest of the world too. Bye-bye.